Jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hey everyone, welcome to another video on the JayBee and Milly channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the final one of the new Scooby-Doo movies, which brings an end to this era before we move on to the new Scooby-Doo show.
So, a bit of housekeeping. One, the audio may be a bit different because I've installed OBS after having a bit of a technological blunder. So if the audio is wrong or if it's different, then you can let us know in the comment section, or obviously while editing I'll listen back to it and make any adjustments that I need. Another one, and again, this is the second time we're recording this because I made a similar blunder, but this has taken a little while for us to finish because I think we had COVID in the middle of this, so apologies for that. And last but not least, on the DVD for this, it said that this episode was called Scooby-Doo meets Dick Van Dyke. But when I've looked everywhere else online, it's called like the Haunted Carnival or the Haunted Circus. So I'm gonna upload it as the Haunted Circus. But if someone wants to catch me early and help me and say, oh, actually it is just Scooby-Doo meets Dick Van Dyke, then I'll greatly appreciate that and I'll make the adjustments to it as necessary. So yeah,
so I guess let's go. Now, going into this, Dick Van Dyke, probably the guest I've been most excited for. Like, I grew up watching Mary Poppins, Night at the Museum, both of which they make great appearances in. So honestly, 100% level here, this is genuinely the guest I've been most like, oh my god, about.
Did you ever watch the Dick Van Dyke Show?
No.
I think I saw clips of it when I was researching something. I actually don't know why I would have been researching that, but I watched a video essay for some reason. It might have even been for WandaVision. I don't know why I would have been researching that. It's weird. But yeah, he's the only person that I've actually known prior to this, I think. I mean, yeah, that's kind of sad, really. But Dick Van Dyke is awesome. From, like you say, Mary Poppins to Night at the Museum. Very, like, kind of opposite ends of his career there, so we're kind of familiar. Hopefully he does more stuff. I know that they're currently doing an animated sequel to Night at the Museum, so maybe he's got a little voiceover cameo in that. I'd really like to see him return to Scooby-Doo at some point. But I don't really have much in the way of a plot summary, other than Scooby and the gang go to a carnival that seems to be abandoned or run down. It's not doing too well, to say the least. So all of the staff have quit. So Dick Van Dyke is the concierge, the ticket master, the main host, the owner. Basically every single role that can be filled, that's Dick Van Dyke. And in the middle of this, there's a mysterious arm that keeps appearing that seems to be scaring off all of the business, all of the customers. And it's up to Scooby and the gang, along with Dick Van Dyke, to solve the mystery behind the floating arm.
Indeed, and honestly, I'm going to struggle here, because for me, there's not much more to the episode than that.
I will say this, I was expecting a bit, not more from Dick Van Dyke, but a bit different. I think that they've combined a lot of concepts here. So in terms of Dick Van Dyke changing outfits a lot, that's instantly reminding me of what Don Knotts did. In terms of his impressions, that's exactly what Jonathan Winters did. So maybe in that era, the comedians were kind of doing similar things. I mean, I'm sure if you look at contemporary entertainers nowadays, a lot of them may be doing similar things because something's trending or something's popular. Do you know what I mean? So without a doubt, if impressions were the big thing in the 70s, then of course all the big names will be doing impressions. But I don't know, it was just a shame that this person who I think I know the most about, it's like, oh, he's doing exactly what Jonathan Winters was doing, or he's doing exactly what Don Knotts was doing. But he did it maybe better. I don't know if I'm just biased.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I know if it wasn't Dick Van Dyke in this episode, it would be a pass. No questions asked. However, because of who it is, I'm trying to give it a bit more of a boost. Like, we'd normally go through this, but I feel like the plot summary just did it because it's so almost rinse and repeat. So the gang are going to a carnival and the ticket seller's asleep. When they wake up, it's Dick Van Dyke. And as you say, they go on to play all these different roles. They let the gang into the fun fair for free.
Oh, that was nice.
They try to put on a show as the Muscle Man and everything like that. But then the ghost hand appears, and you just see the ghost hand going to play like games around the carnival and all that kind of thing. And then I feel like because there wasn't enough with the guest, you then get a Shaggy and Scooby takeover because they then spend loads of time at the food stand doing things around the food stand because there's not enough to the guest to like make it. And here's my issue. Okay. For me, guests like the Harlem Globetrotters have worked well because they're dynamic. There's enough to them. You bring it into basketball and you make an episode about basketball. Whereas I feel like because they've gone for a real person, and I think we've maybe found this throughout the series to some extent, because they've gone for a real person, it's kind of like there's not enough to contribute. So it's just, okay, we have this person at the start, now this doesn't actually take us any further. Whereas with the Harlem Globetrotters, you've got they're there, and this is the basketball theme. And this is where basketball comes in. And this is where they can work as a group. Whereas this is like a Dick Van Dyke intro, a Scooby episode, Dick Van Dyke outro.
I almost wish that they were a bit derivative of his character. Like, this must have been after Mary Poppins, right? Because Mary Poppins was in like the war or something. It was dead old. It was ridiculous, ludicrously old. But this is in the 70s. And I'm sure Mary Poppins was literally at the dawn of time.
I don't have my phone to correct you, but you've got to remember that...
I'm going to Google Mary Poppins. So what I mean by that is, either one, they actually went to London, so it was a different setting. You can have fun with the accents, I don't mind. But it could be some type of, like, must ghost or some literally some smog ghoul or something. Like, it could have been a chimney sweep in that, like... Obviously, it would have been lending from the character he played, but in terms of, like, making it a bit different, it would have been cool if it... Hey, I think they've done this before, actually. If he was preparing for Mary Poppins, they could have said it then and he was trying to method act. That would have been interesting.
See, I've not even made any further notes. Like, this is terrible.
1964, Mary Poppins. So this was about 10 years after Mary Poppins. So they could have done that. So, oh my god. So he was famous when he did this. Like, he wasn't, like, falling off, didn't ask, plus ratio. Like, he was doing well at this point. So that's amazing how they managed to get him. Gosh, he's 96 now. Can you believe that?
It's incredible.
Oh, he's actually quite a chill guy. Yeah, he's very old. Is that his girlfriend? I think it is. That's mad. But yeah. Or this was more Mary Poppins thing. But in Mary Poppins, she kind of has that ability to transport the kids into an animated world. Mm-hmm. It actually would have been a bit interesting and experimental for Dick Van Dyke to then maybe have the power to transport Mystery Inc. into the live action world. I think that would have been interesting, right? Like, I don't know who they would have cast back in the 70s. Or even if they just needed to Looney Tunes back in action it. So you could have real Dick Van Dyke with, the reunion special. Just
that would
cartoon
have worked
Daphne
well,
walking around.
Because they went into artwork in the first movie for Mary Poppins. And for the second one, there was the music. There's the bowl that they go into and there's an animated sequence. So it could literally be you're watching the TV, kind of like Scooby Natural style. Or even like a toy mystery machine. Because like I said, it was the bowl. So there's a lot they could have done. And I feel like it was wasted. Like, I genuinely haven't even put down on my notes who it was that was unmasked at the end. Because quite frankly, I don't remember.
This has just been a pitch, to be honest. Like, look, here's the thing, right? There are merits. There are things I didn't like. And I do just want to go through them quite quickly. Because... with this, as we say, I actually do have more ideas than I do discussion, which I've said. So, there's a bit of outdated stuff, Dick Van Dyke saying stuff like, a man should lead the way. Now, the women do say, oh, that's very gallant of you, which, yeah, it's very polite if they are going into a dangerous situation to volunteer yourself. It's just kind of interesting that happened. It's not a major thing for me personally. I found it funny that Shaggy and Scooby went on the caterpillar ride, which to me reminds me of that's like the kid ride, right? And so I would have been still scared of that.
Yeah, you would.
The Tutti Frutti ice cream. I haven't heard Tutti Frutti for such a long time. The dog-faced man is terrifying. And here's a weird thing. Did you get the vibe that Daphne was trying to, like, vibe with Dick? Because she wanted to, like, pose for a photograph to give her. So, it's kind of interesting, though, that they do this a lot with Daphne before and almost made that Velma's role in the direct-to-video movies, at least from Camp Scare onwards. So in this, we clearly see that Daphne likes Dick, and if you've seen Trick or Treat, you'll know that Velma doesn't. So it's interesting how that's worked. No, come on, that was good. No, Daphne, I think, has a crush on Dick Van Dyke.
You can't say that.
No, I love it though. But Dick Van Dyke, what a guy. And you know what? They don't make it distasteful with this, because I don't think anything comes of it except for, again, that kind of thing where the ghost almost hijacks the photo machine to make a kind of damsel in distress scenario. It has one of my best Velma moments ever, though, and it does kind of play on that when Daphne is being a bit girly, being a bit flirty, trying to say, oh, I'm gonna give Dick a photo of myself, I think he's gonna really like it, and she starts doing her hair, and Velma's like, huh, women. And then, what am I saying? I am one. I thought that was quite a funny moment, because I think it's very rare that Velma gets the time to be funny. So when she does, I'm there for it. And Daphne was definitely being a bit carried away. So I'd rather Velma call out stuff that's a bit over the top versus, oh, I don't believe in ghosts and monsters. So
No, I agree with you. So who is it?
it's the strong man. So it's as literally paint by colours as you can go, paint by numbers. It's the strong man wants the carnival cheaply so he can run it. That's literally it.
And then the episode ends with the gang getting shares in the thing, and they all get their different roles.
Yeah.
The end.
I just realised something.
What?
There's one Q&A question that I don't think we answered.
What was it?
The Funko Pop one. If there was a Scooby-Doo Funko Pop movie.
I don't remember seeing that question.
No. Okay, so that's the end of the episode. We're going to do verdicts, and then I do want to speak about the Q&A for 2 seconds. So, me personally, well, you can go first if you want.
Okay. I hate it.
How do you hate it?
It's terrible. There's no plot. There's no premise. It is absolute. It's an abomination.
Jesus.
And if it wasn't Dick Van Dyke, I'd be saying worse. Because it was bland. It was so bland. It was so boring. There was no story. It was literally like, here's Dick Van Dyke at the start. Here's the gang. Let's bring him back at the end because we can't afford him for the middle and we don't have any concepts for the middle. We're just using him because he's a really big name.
Oh, why do you
Hence
say
the
stuff
fact
like that?
that he's a season finale.
That could well have been the reason.
Hence the fact that he's a season finale. Like, we've used him because of the name. And yet it's a smash because I'm going to watch it again.
See, this could well have been a last-ditch attempt from the behind-the-scenes people to have this renewed for another season, and it didn't work.
Well, it's painful. It is, because it is like, what is the middle of the movie? It literally is Dick Van Dyke intro, Dick Van Dyke end, and nothing of substance in the middle. Terrible episode. Great guest. I was so excited when I heard his voice. I was like, oh my gosh, they actually got him. That's amazing. But it was terrible.
So to you, would this episode have been elevated if there was more Dick in it? Like, is it the lack of dick that
You're
you're
deliberately
not
making this
liking?
sound rude.
No, I'm not. Or would you like it to just have been more, better quality dick? Like, okay, so do you want more dick, or do you just wish dick was utilised differently?
The latter, although you've worded it horrifically.
Okay, Mr. Van Dyke. Do you want more Mr. See, this is a...
No, I just want...
It's just a bit of maturity.
I
His
just
name's
want
Dick.
a better plot.
His name is Dick.
I want a better plot.
I think I could write a great Dick Van Dyke Scooby-Doo crossover.
We just did together.
I think we could. I don't know why they didn't bring him back. In fact, I did see an interview that Jim Krieg did for Comic-Con, and he said that that's his dream guest. I'm guessing maybe they reached out and he wasn't willing to do it, or maybe he's advanced a bit now. I don't know. They should bring him back.
Before, Warner Brothers don't exactly...
Stingy WB.
Yeah, like paying. So it's quite possible they just didn't want to pay.
That's a shame. But I'm actually gonna write a fan fiction piece. Scooby-Doo meets Dick Van Dyke 2. It's gonna be amazing. So I agree with what you're saying. I would like to have seen more Mr. Van Dyke in the episode. I don't know though. I agree with you. It's not the best episode. It's kind of bland, but at the same time I think there's enough fun in it, and because I do like Dick quite a lot, I think I'm gonna watch this again at some point. I'm not gonna say it's in the next year, maybe even 2 years, but 100% I am gonna watch it again. So I'm going to smash it, but it's more of a reluctant smash. It's a reluctant smash wolf. So, the Q&A. I'm really excited for everyone to see the Q&A and to experience it. There were a few questions that we got last minute that I'm going to save till next time, which I think may be a while away. But equally, I think then the next one's going to be in quick succession, so I'll see if I can balance that. But yeah, we're going on to the new Scooby-Doo movie. No, onto the Scooby-Doo show. I am going to need people's help, so if people can remind me what episode comes next after every review we do, because there's honestly so many different names for the things going forward that I am getting quite confused. But I'm excited to go on to that, and really, the Q&A that we just did is a celebration of both the reviews and the interviews, as opposed to just the reviews like they were before. Like, they'll all probably come after the reviews, but I do want to make it more of a finale of an era versus this is what we learned about this series. So, yeah. It was an ambitious season finale. Wasn't it, Millie?
It was very good. You did very well.
So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with us throughout the new Scooby-Doo movies. If you do want to listen to more, then please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee Milly.